Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Caroline Slade. I'm one of the assistant principals here at the high school. I am joined by Mr. Tom Henkel, our interim principal. This is the Cyber Open House, today's Cyber Open House. I'm going to go through a PowerPoint. There are going to be a bunch of frequently asked questions at the end and through the presentation. If you have any questions as we go through things, please feel free to enter a question in the chat feature. That is how we will be answering questions. In order to access the chat, you are going to go, if you're on a desktop device, you're going to go to the bottom of the screen and click chat and then enter the question in the field that opens up. If you're on a mobile device, down at the bottom right corner, you'll see 3 dots. You'll click on that and then click on chat. We'll answer those questions at the end of the presentation. We're going to go until about 2:30 or so, if not before then, depending on how many questions we have for you. And we are recording this presentation so that we can post it on the web for others to watch. And also there will be additional sessions next week. And those sessions, both blended and cyber, are on Tuesday, August 4th. The blended is at 4:30 and the cyber is at 6. And then Wednesday, August 5th at 11:30, the blended, and 1 o'clock, the cyber. All right, let's get going. Okay, so our Cyber Academy, as most of you probably know, didn't exist prior to this summer. We were tasked with creating one from the ground up, and as we were considering all of the needs and all of the different variables that were going on, we had some things to think about in order to design the best plan, the best academy for our students. So we needed to design a plan that would meet the needs of all of our students, whether they were cyber students, whether there were students in the building, brick and mortar students, and also wanted students to be able to change their mind. So for example, if a student started, if we were opening school and there were students here and they decided they wanted to switch to cyber, we wanted them to be able to do that. If a student started the year in the Cyber Academy and a month later decided that they wanted to return to school in the building, we wanted that to be possible. We wanted to offer all of our courses. We have a 70-something page program of study. All of our students have had their schedules since Memorial Day weekend for all of their courses. We wanted all of our students to be able to keep those courses and to be able to access them virtually. And we wanted to have a plan that would be flexible and work regardless of what was going on here in the building. So if we were able at whatever point to open school 5 days a week, if we had a blended schedule, if school was closed, whether it was closed long-term, short-term, we wanted it to be able to work for our cyber students and also for our students who were not cyber students to be able to continue to access their courses. And so the key to be able to do all of this is this guy, this camera, okay? So it's about the size of my mouse, okay? So these cameras are in the process of being installed in all of our classrooms and really allows us to do all of those things that I mentioned for all of our students. And we'll talk more about how that's gonna work in a few minutes. But the most important thing to realize about how the Cyber Academy works is that it's not a separate entity. It's not a separate school. There are schools that have had cyber academies prior to this situation that we're living in. And in most cases, they serve as separate, basically separate schools, separate teachers. And that's not, for this year, going to be the way that our Cyber Academy works. Move forward. All right, so how does a high school plan work? So with these cameras, we will be able to stream lessons for students synchronously. And the synchronous and asynchronous learning are 2 terms that You're going to hear me say a lot this afternoon. You've probably heard it also in other presentations, school board meetings, that sort of thing. So what exactly are they? Synchronous learning is learning that is occurring in live time. Okay, so for our purposes, the way we have our Cyber Academy designed, the teacher is in their classroom or at home, wherever they are going to be, depending on the situation, and they are instructing, and our students that are Cyber Academy students are at home and with the option of witnessing and participating in that lesson in a live format. Asynchronous learning is what you'll see more with existing cyber charter schools, where you're accessing all of your course content on your own time. So it could be at whatever point you want, whether it's 6 in the morning, 10 in the morning, 2 in the morning, whatever is going to work for that student. That's when they're going to go on and access the course content and do their work. So the way that we do this is by having our teachers in front of the classroom with the camera on, teaching their lessons, providing course content to the students that are both in the room and also at home, and then posting those recorded lessons on their Canvas page along with all of the rest of the course content. So students who prefer or need to access the content asynchronously can do so at their convenience. So the curriculum and instruction that allows having those cameras and having this set up allows all of our students to retain their current schedule of courses with their current OJR teachers and their peers. All of the courses are accessible to them that are in our program of studies, ranging from advanced placement to IB courses. And if a student chooses to access the content and the course synchronously, they have the option to engage with their teachers and participate in the course during the actual class time. And this format works regardless of what is happening with the students or where the students are who are not Cyber Academy students. So if at whatever point students are allowed to be here 5 days a week in the building, whether we are in a blended format, whether we have to go to a full remote format where all of our non-Cyber Academy students are at home, the Cyber Academy students will be able to participate whether they want to do it asynchronously or synchronously. That the schedule for students that are in the Cyber Academy will follow whatever the schedule is for our non-Cyber Academy students. So for example, if we are in a 5-day-a-week format where everybody who's not in the Cyber Academy is here in the building 5 days a week, we have our normal schedule that runs from 7:30 until 2:20. If we're in a blended format, which Mr. Richardson has spoken about in his open houses, you can see that that schedule is an A and B format. So half of our students are here Monday and Tuesday, the other half are here Thursday and Friday, and then Wednesday is an open day for a lot of different activities, which I'll talk about in a minute. All right, so how are we supporting our Cyber Academy students? So a few different things. The first thing is the continuity of support will continue to be there for all of our Cyber Academy students. So their school counselors, if they have an IEP, their learning support teachers, academic coaches, student assistance program counselors, they will all be able to work with our Cyber Academy students. For our special education students, our current setup is that those students have a case manager that they start with in 9th grade, and they move, their case manager moves with them through high school, grades 9 to 12. So for a child, for example, who is going into their junior year, they've had a case manager for 9th and 10th grade. That case manager who knows the child well, who knows their IEP, who has worked with the parents, who has had a lot of contact with the child's teachers and knows the child's teachers already, that person will continue to be their case manager, which is an incredible asset. Same thing with the school counselors. The school counselors move with their students through the time that they're in high school because their caseloads are alphabetical, and that school counselor will continue to be the child's counselor if they are in the Cyber Academy. For 9th grade students, they don't know their case manager, they don't know their school counselor yet, but the advantage that exists is that those personnel who are here in the high school will work and always work with the middle school peers in that area. So to work on transition activities, to continue communication, to serve those children's needs the best. All right, so on Wednesdays, as has been discussed in the blended open houses, we aren't planning to have live synchronous instruction. Rather, students will be assigned work to do asynchronously, but they will also have open opportunities to work with teachers in a one-on-one or small group format to nail down those concepts. They will have the opportunity to meet virtually with their counselors, to meet with their peers, to do whatever it is that they need to do to just keep going with their academics, and also support, have the opportunity to be supported in their social emotional wellness. We will be distributing books and materials to our cyber students. We have to figure out a way to do that, but it is something that we will manage to do for all of our cyber students. And then we'll also have a Canvas and Chromebook orientation for 9th graders, and that is an option that will be available as an asynchronous project or task that students will be able to do, and it's actually going to be an assignment for our 9th graders in their English classes to move through different modules so they can understand how to use Canvas and Chromebook. And then Mr. Yoder, who is our teacher on assignment, I'll talk more about him in a minute. He will be doing a live virtual trainings that will be recorded for students and parents to access. All right, so how are we supporting our teachers? So I mentioned a minute ago, our teacher on assignment for educational technology. So Mr. Yoder is with us full-time this year in that role, and his responsibility is to support both students and teachers in their efforts. So you know, as everybody knows, this has been and will continue to be a challenging transition for our teachers. Mr. Yoder, our administration, our department chairs, our curriculum supervisors have been working together to design and implement the professional development that all of our teachers will need in order to provide fantastic instruction to both our students who are in the building and also in the Cyber Academy. So things like, and if you go down to the bottom, the last bullet there, those instructional practices when you're teaching in person and remotely at the same time, or for remote students and in-person students at the same time. All of the different departments are working on demonstration lessons. So essentially what that is where you have participants that are in the room and also participants that are there virtually, and the teacher is going through teaching the lessons with the cameras there and kind of figuring out all of the things that they need to consider and changes that they need to make to their instruction in order to provide appropriate instruction for all of the students. He's working with our students and our teachers to support them with Canvas, with Google Meet, which will be the tool that we will be using for all of our teachers to stream their lessons, and then also with supplemental support, so different tools like Nearpod that we'll be using, a few other things. So like I said, he's working with a bunch of different folks to design professional development to just make sure that all of our teachers are in a good spot, and then also to support the students. All right, technology and support. So as most of you who are current high school parents know, our students all have Chromebooks. They're issued their Chromebooks when they come into 9th grade. Our rising 9th grade students will be receiving Chromebooks from us the week of August 9th, and more information will be coming out pretty soon about that. The technology department is also working with us on infrastructure. So those cameras that I showed a second ago, the brand is called Hudley Go, and they are able to be portable. They mount really well on top of a laptop or on a tripod, and can also be mounted in the classroom and popped off the mount really easily, so they can be moved around the classroom or really anything that the teacher needs it to do. all of the cameras in the classroom will be connected to a dedicated device, either a desktop or a laptop or a Chromebook. So the teachers will stream the Google Meet through that device as opposed to their personal laptop, so they can continue to use the personal laptop for whatever they need it to do, whether they're on Canvas or whatever else. And then also our technology department has been working with the Chester County Intermediate Unit to ensure that we have the bandwidth in the building to support all of these teachers streaming all of the time. And we can ensure that that's going to happen. And then finally, our technology department is available for both our students and our teachers to provide hardware support. So if, for example, a student's Chromebook stops working, there's an issue with the power cord, they can bring it in and exchange it, get a loaner, we'll send it out for service, get it back. And they do the same thing for our teachers with their laptops or whatever other hardware they might be using. So these cameras we've actually started to use this summer with our extended school year teachers. And even though they're tiny, the thing that I've noticed is that they provide great sound and a great visual. They can be up in the ceiling, pretty close to the board, and still catch a wide swath of the teacher and the board, while not showing students that are in the room. So they do a really nice job of that, a far better job than a laptop camera or a Chromebook camera would do. All right, some frequently asked questions. Can our Cyber Academy students still participate in athletics and activities? Athletics will continue unless we're directed otherwise by the PIAA or the Commonwealth. As of yesterday, PIAA is planning on continuing athletics, fall athletics for all the students in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We do want to continue activities if we're able to as well. Can my child start the year in the Cyber Academy but have the option to return to the building and vice versa? Yes, they can go either way. Obviously we don't want them to be having a revolving door from the Cyber Academy back to the school and the other way around. But we will allow students to switch, and because of the seamless nature of the Cyber Academy as it's integrated into the regular instruction here, we don't have to wait. We don't have to stop a student from coming back or going into the Cyber Academy at a marking period or semester end. It could be really at whatever point they want to switch. Will it be easier to navigate Canvas? Last year, the course pages looked different. Yes, our teachers are going to be using a standardized Canvas template so that when students and parents are trying to access content, they can always find each of those different things, whether it's a syllabus or assignments or modules. They'll all be on the same page for all classes. And one of the things also that will be standardized is that the assignments will be listed, or excuse me, the modules will be listed in most recent to least recent order. So, for example, if it's in January or February, you don't have to start at September and then scroll and scroll and scroll to get down to the current assignment. The most current assignment will be at the top of the list, the most current modules and assignments. When and how do we register? So registration actually opened a few days ago. Mr. Henkel and Mr. Stoltzfus sent out a Skylert this morning that included that link, and students will be allowed to register for the Cyber Academy. I believe the date is August 12th. And that link is up on the website for students to do. My child attends TCHS. How will the Cyber Academy work with the program? So our transportation department is able to transport our students from their homes to TCHS Pickering. The only thing we're waiting on is what instruction will look like at TCHS Pickering. We have been in touch with them and are currently waiting to hear from them about their plan. All right, continuing with the frequently asked questions, are there going to be other virtual open houses for blended and cyber? As I mentioned in the beginning of the program, there are going to be 2 more dates next week, August 4th and August 5th. Those dates and times are listed on the high school website under announcements. And this presentation, along with Mr. Richardson's presentation for the blended program, are also listed in that announcement. So you can check those out if you want to reference them. How will the Cyber Academy work if the school has to go remote? So whether we have to go temporarily remote, for example, if we have to shut the building down for a few days, if we have a positive COVID case, or if we're in a fully remote situation, the Cyber Academy instruction will continue. The only thing that could change is what the schedule will be for classes. And that's something that we would be communicating with our Cyber Academy families, so they are aware of what the schedule will be. How will attendance be taken for Cyber Academy students? It'll be similar to last spring. So if you're a student in the building, attendance is taken by the first period teacher for the entire school day. For our Cyber Academy students, even if they're accessing their courses synchronously, so they're present in that first period class, they're present in the second period class via Google Meet, their teacher is not going to be taking attendance for them. They're going to be going onto a link and indicating their presence in school that day by clicking on that link. If restrictions are lifted, will my child be able to finish the school year in the Cyber Academy? Will their schedule change? So yes, students will be able to continue in the Cyber Academy through the entire school year, even if all of our non-Cyber Academy students are able to return back to school in the building. The schedule could change, as I mentioned before. The schedule for Cyber Academy students will be the schedule that all of our non-Cyber Academy students are following. So whether it's a 5-day-a-week normal schedule, the blended schedule, full remote schedule, which we're considering how we're going to do that, students in the Cyber Academy would be able to access those courses synchronously if that's their preference, but also asynchronously if they so choose. All right. If we have to go to remote learning, will it be like last year? So this is a question that a lot of parents have asked, and also our teachers. We will be returning to the typical rigor, the grading, and the pace through the curriculum, and there will be a synchronous schedule. But like I've mentioned already, the lessons will be recorded and all content will be on Canvas for all students to access at their convenience and their necessity. How will we assess students? So if we have students in the building, whether it's a blended schedule or a 5-day-a-week schedule, they'll be here, and then there'll be Cyber Academy students at home. Our teachers are working with each other, with Mr. Yoder, with the department chairpersons, the supervisors, curriculum supervisors, to develop alternate ways to assess students. So think about different ways of doing that, like projects, essays, videos, portfolios, and while they're developing those, acknowledging that students are going to have open access to their resources, and making sure that those assessments are equitable for all students, whether they're here or they're at home. All right, so I'm gonna unshare my screen. And Mr. Henkel has a pile of questions for me to answer. All right, so the first question is about student behavior with cameras. So we are working on a code of conduct for our students, for what those expectations of behavior will be when they're on camera. So things to think about are their dress. They need to be appropriately dressed, like they would be dressed to school, dressed to come to school. Just their participation level, and just normal expectations of conduct while they're on there. Nothing that's unreasonable, but we do expect that our students will demonstrate appropriate behavior while they're in those Google Meets.
Good afternoon, everyone. A couple other questions. It says, I want to confirm Cyber Academy students, in essence, participate in classes from home 4 days a week versus 2 days in the blended model. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. It sounded like students could also choose to watch sessions another time. If you are a full cyber student, you can choose to watch sessions another time. You know your children better than anybody else, whether they're self-driven or not. For example, If it was my granddaughter who's going to be a ninth grader, she's not self-driven, she would need to attend synchronously. If I let her do it asynchronously, that would not work. Certain students are self-driven, and asynchronously and watching the sessions at another time, that does work for them. Concern about the teachers all using Canvas as a standardized template. That is correct. Will teachers be adding information assignments regularly? The answer is yes. That is an expectation of the administration for all staff members throughout the district to add assignments and information regularly. It was very sporadic in the spring. I know that was a situation in numerous school districts across the southeastern Pennsylvania, but no, information will be put on Canvas on a regular basis so that parents and students know what's expected, the expectations, what's coming ahead, when the tests are, when projects are due, so on and so forth. Can I register for cyber after August the 10th? That's a district office decision. Knowing Dr. Lloyd and Dr. Soder, I'm just going to assume that if a parent really is not sure and it's August 12th or 13th or 14th, I'm sure you will have that time. But we are encouraging, as soon as you know, to let us know if you're going to go cyber. Mrs. Slade are talking about electives and labs.
So a question came in about how course electives and labs will work for students that are in the Cyber Academy. If it's a typical academic elective, it would work the same way as any other academic course would. So, you know, courses like drama and theater, journalism, crime and justice, they're not going to change. All of our special area teachers, so think about departments like agriculture, ceramics, ROTC, engineering. All of those teachers in those departments are working together with their department chairs, with Mr. Yoder, to design methods and ways that our Cyber Academy students can access that course in the best way possible. I don't have too much additional information about that. It's something that we are working on, but they all understand that it's a different type of instruction that will be necessary when it's a non-traditional or hands-on type of course, and they are absolutely working on that.
A question came in about switching from cyber to hybrid or vice versa after the year's begun. If it's not a good fit, is that no longer the case? No, it still is the case. What we're saying is we don't want somebody to say, middle of September, they've identified that they're in Cyber Academy and then they'd prefer to go to blended. No problem. But then 3 weeks later, we want to go back to cyber. 3 weeks after that, we want to go back to blended. I'm quite fine and acceptable and understanding of the fact that the original choice may not quite fit the family 3 or 4 weeks into it. And absolutely, you can make an adjustment. We just have to get it set up and make the switch through our office so we know where each student is at the time. Let's see some other questions that are coming through. Once again, it said here, as I said, I wasn't here in the spring, but I was at another high school in the spring. And it said on more than one occasion, a teacher canceled class because 1 or 2 students were the only ones in class online. That can't happen this year because remember, if you're in the O&J Roberts Cyber Academy, you are part of a class. So the class is going on for each person assigned to it. So you're going to have X amount of blended students in the class at that time. So every class will be taking place at the scheduled time. How will Cyber Academy students participate in large group events such as orientation, training information sessions for topics such as bullying, harassment, etc.? We can't stress enough, Cyber Academy students are O&J Roberts students. They are encouraged to participate in any events that we have for all of our students. They are not excluded. We want them here. We want them to participate. So if there is some type of an orientation, parents and student will be notified to come on in. We just have to follow the guidelines of physical distancing to have any type of get-togethers. And right now, it would be very, very difficult to have those types of activities. We talked about labs, I believe, electives. Let's just give us a minute here. Will a student be able to retake electives that they were not able to fully participate in on a virtual setting, such as CAD, and get credit? Ms. Slade, I'm not quite
That's
sure.
a great question. We have to think about that. My first, and discuss it with our, with the administration and our teachers. My first gut reaction is that we would want students to be able to do that, to be able to get the full experience of that course that they were shorted last year. If it was a semester-long elective, they didn't even get a full marking period in that class once we shut down. The one definite that I could tell you is that it would have to be a situation where the course fit in the student's schedule. So even if you're a Cyber Academy student and you never set foot in this building for the entire school year, you still have your schedule on Skyward, and whatever that course is, like if it's a CAD course and it doesn't fit in your schedule, or there aren't enough seats in the class, then that student wouldn't be able to take that course. But if it does fit in the student's schedule and there are seats, then it's a definite possibility. But that's something that that we'll need to discuss and nail down. But that's a great question.
If we haven't answered all of your questions, please keep them coming. A lot of these are questions that have all been answered. It said, another parent, in the spring, many assignments had to be printed, written on, take pictures, and emailed back to the teachers. We used a lot of printer paper and toner. Are assignments going to be paperless, and should we be expected to do this print and complete and send again? I am just saying it from my experience, from where I've been. I would hope we are moving towards paperless, submitting the work more and more each year. That's our goal, and that will be the expectations for teachers to have assignments submitted paperless as much as possible. Go ahead, absolutely.
So just to add to Mr. Henkel's response, so that is one thing definitely that our teachers are working on in concert with our educational technology teacher on assignment. So we have some different tools that will assist teachers in being able to do that. And also those assignments can be on Canvas and be done on the computer and submitted immediately to the teacher in that fashion. I get what you're saying. My gosh, the amount of printer paper we used in our house last spring was ridiculous. So yeah, that is definitely something that they're working on.
Question regarding training for around non-discrimination Title IX. We will not forego that under any circumstance. We will figure out a way to have it done virtually if need be. This will work with central administration. Is there access to join sports teams now? Officially, the fall season has not begun, officially. Those of you who this is not your first child in high school, there are open gyms going on at the present time. My advice would be to contact the coach if your son or daughter is interested in trying out for any of the fall sports teams. As Mrs. Slade said, as of today, all fall sports are on without spectators. When will Blended and Cyber Academy start? That's a good question because there's a board meeting tonight. I think after tonight's board meeting, we'll have a clear picture of the start of the school year and what options will be on the table for the students. I want to emphasize, working with Mrs. Slade, Mr. Richardson, Dr. Early, we want a flexible option for the students. We want them not to lose out on anything. If a family chooses Cyber Academy, which is in the best interest of their family, then we will afford them every opportunity to participate in everything. And if it means coming in for something, we'll make it work. We're not quite sure what it'll look like, but we will make it work. We want everybody to get the best education possible. And just because you're having your school online fully at home doesn't mean you're not going to be able to access all of the opportunities that exist at Owen J. Roberts. We're just trying to work out the specifics of if there's a lab, how do we get them in, things like that.
So there was a question about concerns about teasing and bullying for kids, students wearing masks. Right now, as it stands, students are required to wear masks in the building. That's the governor's order, unless they have a doctor's note that is accepted by the district. So the majority of our students will be wearing masks. You know, to me, issues of bullying specific to masks are not unlike any other issue of bullying for any other reason. And the thing to keep in mind with bullying is that it's a pervasive chronic sort of thing. Students will make remarks to each other about one thing or another, and certainly any of those times that happens, we're as an administration willing to address that and work with students. But it'll really be something that's dealt with in the same fashion as any other type of concern from students. You know, and that is to say that we will address it and work with students and parents to ensure that if it has happened once, that it will not continue.
Question about without spectators, how can we ensure the safety and well-being of the students? Even though there won't be spectators at events, there will be staff members, administrators, and the athletic director at the events to ensure the safety. The administrators will spread themselves out at the different events. How will information specifically be filtered to cyber students because announcements may not be, quote, heard? Morning announcements will be put on Canvas for the families to be able to be seen. When they're online, any announcement in the class, the students will hear them and the teachers will also post those announcements. If there's a situation where you know that an announcement was made and your child did not get that announcement, let us know and we'll figure out where the communication dropped and we'll fix that. Any other questions? Take a couple minutes or so here. If we missed your question, just send me another one. Just say, hey, listen.
So there's a question about the amount of time that children that are in the Cyber Academy are spending on their screens. Because our Cyber Academy students will have the option of accessing their courses asynchronously, if it's a situation where they need a break from being on screen, which is a legitimate thing, then they can do that. That's because the instruction can be delivered and accessed asynchronously, they can take a break. They can say, you know what, I've been in class all day. I'm going to take a break and not be in my 6th period or 7th period class synchronously, and I'm going to access that content later on today or tomorrow or over the weekend or whatever works for them. And that's a decision that each student and parent, they can, you guys can work that out together as a family for how best to do that, and know when you need a break and take that break. Absolutely. So there's a question, if staggered start times will impact the school day. I'm not sure what you mean by staggered times. Do you have an idea, Mr. Ankle? Okay. I mean, right now, our school schedule, if students are in the building, will continue to be the regular school day. So that's 7:30 to 2:20. Whatever the times are that non-Cyber Academy students will have for their courses and their periods will be whatever the schedule for a Cyber Academy student.
A question came in. A family is new to O&J. Welcome. We're thrilled you are here, actually. Actually, we're glad you're here with us. In our last school, Google Meets was a problem with freezing, buffering, kicking people out, so on and so forth. Will this be a problem? We hope not. We're planning for it not to be a problem. If it is a problem for anyone, you need to get hold of us quickly so we can get our tech department on the problem to solve it for the family. A person said they're sorry they came in late. No, and we are correct. Cyber Academy, as we said, is not the same as what they did at the end of the last school year. Who would be responsible for coordinating the transition between cyber and brick and mortar? Who would be the contact for this? You would go through the guidance department just to let us know if you're deciding to go from cyber to blended, and we'd take care of that. Our class is going to be graded regularly or pass-fail. They will not be pass-fail. Students will be getting a grade as they would if everybody was here every day. The staggered times, somebody said they were told they're considering staggered start times, whatever that means. Staggered means one school starts at 7:30, another school starts at another time, or bring in different grade levels at different times. That has not been discussed at this time. Good question. Parent drop-off due to many parents not wanting their students on a bus. There's going to be more cars. There's no doubt about it. We are not charging for parking passes for the students. We are encouraging students, if their parents are okay with it, to drive if they can. We're encouraging people to get dropped off because I know the bus is a concern. We're working with the middle school to formulate a safe pickup and drop-off pattern between the two schools. That has not been finalized yet, and we'll work with our safety officers too. If blended, is that part in school and part cyber? Again, sorry for late to sessions. Hey, we're glad you're here, really, absolutely. Blended just means that they're cyber half the time and in school half the time. Cyber Academy, they're cyber the 4 days as opposed to the 2 days. Same education. Just to confirm, the high school is not using accelerated education, correct?
That's correct. The high school will not be using Accelerate. Our curriculum will be the curriculum that is in place for the courses that your son or daughter, your child already have in their schedule.
Once again, it says, if there's any confusion, there will be 4 live synchronous days per week, cyber, 2 blended. So technically, there's going to be 4 live synchronous days a week for the teacher. If you're blended, 2 in school, 2 at home, Wednesdays, the meeting time, small group instruction, office hours, and so on and so forth. If you are cyber, you have 4 synchronous days per week. Will students have an option to take some classes hybrid, but not at all, as going in for band or certain electives? We're working that out. Talking to Dr. Soder this morning, we're working it out how we could get, like some of your electives, your arts, your more hands-on activities, a cyber student in here for band and things like that. We're working that out.
So if the question was about how is phys ed going to work, we are, that's another area similar to the other hands-on classes that our teachers, department chairs, administration are working on to sort out exactly what that would look like. I would imagine that there will be ways for Cyber Academy students to participate in their phys ed class in an asynchronous manner where they're doing their workouts, keeping track of those workouts. There's guidelines and expectations for what they would need to be doing for their physical education class. All right, so the next question is, are blended remote asynchronous? Wow, that's a lot of tag words right there. So the answer is no. So if we're in blended instruction, that's what students are doing. Students who choose to attend school here in the building, if possible, the blended model is what Mr. Henkel mentioned and what Mr. Richardson talked about in his open house, where they're in 2 days a week, either Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday. And remote learning would happen if we have to shut down the school for whatever duration it's going to be. And no matter what is happening here in the building, if students are allowed to be in the building or not, there will be synchronous learning. There will be lessons that are live, taught by the Owen J. Roberts High School teachers. But like I've mentioned, Cyber Academy students will always have the option of accessing those lessons recorded asynchronously. You know, in whatever fashion it'll work for their schedule and their preference.
Just so we are clear, if you opt to do cyber, the Owen J. Roberts Cyber Academy, your entire schedule is flexible versus blended. You have to be online at specific times. Cyber students are not required to be on class times live. We had said they're not required, but they are fully encouraged. You know your students, you know as I said, your son and daughter, you know whether they are self-starters, self-driven. So you will need to make that decision as a family. You know, there's a question about if the students are walking to school across 123, are the cops going to be upset with them, so on and so forth. Needless to say, the students must follow all the traffic requirements along any road in the district. And the police certainly will know what we're doing, and they'll be out there to help us out, absolutely. As a follow-up, it says, but doesn't that mean that students are watching 7 to 8 45-minute periods in a full day? It could. 7 periods in a day, but a lot of that is not, you know, direct instruction the entire 45 minutes. It could be presenting a concept and then students working on it, teachers checking the students at home, the students in the classroom, how they're doing. Parents concerned, I don't want cyber children to be forgotten versus the ones they can see. Absolutely not. Our teachers are professionals. They have X amount of students in a class at one time, whether they're at home or in front of them. And all students will be engaged and have the opportunity to engage with the teacher. It says, how do the teachers know who's there? They will see their computer screen. All students' faces will be there.
All right, so Mr. Henkel is on the chat. He's scrolling through those, and it looks to him as if we've covered all of the different questions. If you have any remaining ones that haven't been answered or any ones that are popping in your head, please enter them now. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up this open house for now. The question was, how do you register for Cyber Academy? Earlier this week, Mrs. Kenny, Dr. Lloyd's secretary, sent out a link with all of the days and times of these open houses, and included in that link was the registration link for the Cyber Academy. This morning, Mr. Stoltzfus, our middle school principal, and Mr. Henkel sent out an additional Skylert that had the registration link in there for students and families to register. All right, looks like I'm getting some chats here. How will scheduled days off work? Middle school mentioned that Wednesday would be used in place, scheduled days off work. So, so the way I'm reading that is, for example, if we have a school week that only has 4 days, if we're off for Monday, and we're in a blended schedule, then what we're expecting to have happen is that Tuesday and Wednesday will be the A cohort, and Thursday and Friday would be the B cohort. So that Wednesday asynchronous instruction, individual help day, all those different things that'll go on Wednesday would not occur that week. Will students see the other students in the classroom or only other cyber students? So I don't expect that students who are Cyber Academy students, based on how the camera is going to be set up, will be able to see in a traditional classroom the students who are in the classroom. But on the Google Meet, they would be able to see the other students who are Cyber Academy students. Now that's for a traditional class. Because these cameras are able to be mobile, there could be a situation even in a regular academic class where the teacher unmounts the camera from the computer, from the ceiling, and can walk around with that camera, or also in a special area class where it's always going to be a more fluid and mobile situation. Are we automatically enrolled in blended if we don't sign up for cyber? So if you do not sign up for the Cyber Academy, you're automatically enrolled in whatever ends up happening here in the building. So as most of you guys know, the school board tonight has scheduled a meeting, and I believe that they will be deciding how to proceed forward with the school year. So at this point right now, as things stand, 5 days a week is not an option, just because of physical distancing requirements and health and safety concerns and that sort of thing. So if you don't sign up for Cyber Academy, you will automatically be a student who will be in the building in whatever fashion students are allowed to be in the building. So if that's a blended option, that's what those non-Cyber Academy students would be registered in.
The question, and it's a great question. As Mrs. Slade said, if we have a 4-day week and we're here Tuesday through Friday, what about the deep clean on Wednesday? As soon as the students leave, that deep clean begins. And if it takes till 11 o'clock at night or midnight, it occurs. That will occur on Wednesdays, even if we're here. That is a must.
So I have a question here. If a family decides to go cyber, it may impact their schedule choices that have already been made, and will the counseling office be able to work with the students to make changes to the schedule? Our school counselors will be able to make schedule changes in the same manner in which they have always been able to do, which is to say, if a course works, if a student is desirous of making a change to their schedule, and it works with their schedule and their seats in the class, then they'll be able to make that change. So even though a Cyber Academy student is not going to be physically present in the building, the class sizes for that schedule, for those courses, still need to be kept intact and met. So as long as it works with the schedule, it would be made. And then the second part of that question is, will more slots open up for classes because we are able to go to cyber now? So the answer, if a student goes into the Cyber Academy and keeps their schedule as it is, there wouldn't be any other seats. But like any other year, even though students have had their schedules since May, there seems to always be a feverish rush to make schedule changes as the school year approaches and at the very beginning of the school year. So as long, like I've said, as long as the course that the student wants to change into has seats and works with their schedule, and also those changes are within the guidelines of the schedule change policies that are outlined in the program of studies, then they can make the changes. And there's always a lot of movement in and out of courses. So if your child was unable to take a course or switch into a course back in late spring when those courses were initially released, it could be a situation now where there are seats. And speaking specifically about health, which is the course that was mentioned in this question, because of our summer enrichment program, where we offer online health 2, online driver's ed, and we also have a phys ed course that's running in person right now. Once those courses are completed, if that student also had the course in their schedule, it will be dropped from their schedule. So there are potentially slots in some of those courses that may not have been there at the end of last school year. So certainly you can check with the school counselors about that to inquire if there are seats in the class.
Question regarding students with IEPs. Will they automatically be put in Group C? They are technically in Group C, but if a parent chooses 2 days as opposed to 4, how do we let somebody know? You work through the guidance department, special education department, and their case manager. And their IEP will be met whether they're here 4 days or 2 days. All of the goals and specially designed instructions will be adhered to. Will there be cleaning between Group B and school before Group A comes back? Absolutely. The maintenance and custodial staff is working with the director of maintenance in protocol for that to make sure there's the deep cleaning once a week, but there is cleaning going on every day to ensure the building is taken care of in a clean with the correct disinfectants. Are all students with a 504 included in Group C? Yes, they are. I'm going to defer this to Mrs. Slade because certain schools have different requirements, and me just starting here. If my junior has first period study hall, is he or she allowed to arrive just before second period for blended? And if we do cyber, will she only start to log on second period if they have first period study hall?
So if you have a first period study hall, and you are a student in any grade, so those parents who have had older kids who've gone through the high school, there used to be an option called senior privilege, and seniors were able to, if their schedule and their credit requirements permitted, to leave a period early. And then a few years ago, we opened that option for seniors to come in a period late, so they were coming in at 8:30. And then with the introduction of so many different hybrid courses and online courses, many students were able to fit in all of their required courses to continue with their credit progress towards graduation, regardless of what grade that they were in. So a few years back, we opened up the option for all students grades 9 to 12 to do AM or PM privilege. So you're either coming in a period late or you're leaving a period early. If you have a study hall right now and you're going to be a Cyber Academy kid, feel free to contact the school counseling office to have that study hall dropped and AM privilege added. And actually you could do that even if you're planning on attending as a student physically in the building. You can have that course. It's not really a course, just something scheduled into your day. What was the second part of the question? I think I answered it. All right.
I think that just about concludes our meeting with all of you. We appreciate everyone who's been listening and asking a lot of great questions. I want everyone to understand this administration takes our job very seriously of the safety and well-being of each one of your children and the academic achievement of them. If you have any questions, you are to contact us as the school year begins if there's problems, concerns, or even, hey, listen, it's been going great. We'd love to hear that too. So as I said, we take our job very seriously, and we're proud of what we do, and we're proud of the students of this school district. So do not hesitate to contact us. We'll give you an answer. Sometimes we may not agree, but we'll give you an answer and work something out to the best option for your child.
There was one more question that came through. Can you unmute me? Looks like you muted me. Yeah. I'm unmuted now. Okay, so sorry, there was one more question that came through in my chat. Class participation grade as part of language classes and others. How will cyber students be graded on participation? That's a great question. And certainly one that those classes, especially language, where that is typically a component of the grade. So I know that there's a lot of different ways that that teachers are able to gauge that, whether the student is participating in the course synchronously or not. There's one tool that I know our teachers do use. It's an app called Flipgrid, where you can record yourself for it's a short amount of time, I don't know, a minute and a half, something like that, where you can record yourself speaking. And I know that's a tool that our world language teachers have utilized in the past, and that's just one way that they can be flexible and creative with being able to accommodate and accomplish that typical component of many of our courses.
Cyber would not have study halls, correct? No, I mean, technically they're in their schedule just in case a cyber student returns to school, they choose a blended later on, or we go back full time. But I don't know how you have a study hall at home. So that would be a break time for them to get work done, to kind of relax a little bit, so on and so forth. If a student has an IEP, are they required to come into school? You need to work with the special education department. We have to find the best way to meet the needs of that IEP student. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so it looks like we've covered all of our questions. If you have any additional questions that, that come up in your mind later on, please feel free to send us an email. Here is Mr. Henkel's email address, thenkel@ojrsd.net, or myself, Mr. Richardson, Dr. Early. Our email addresses are available on the high school website. My email address is cslade, S-L-A-D-E, S as in Sam, L-A-D as in dog, E, @ojrsd.net. Again, I'll reiterate, this presentation is available on the high school website under announcements if you'd like to refer back to it, along with the blended presentation that Mr. Richardson did earlier today. And if you came in late, for whatever reason, we will have encore presentations of these open houses next week. On August 4th and August 5th. August 4th, the blended is at 4:30 and the cyber is at 6. And August 5th, the blended is at 11:30 and the cyber is at 1 p.m. Again, thank you guys for coming to this open house. We are working through all of these different scenarios, and some of you asked some great questions that we do need to work on and sort out, just so we can resolve those blind spots that we may have had. So again, thanks for coming, and please let us know if you have any questions. Take care.